Welcome back, everybody. Well, January is known as Divorce Month or Divorce-uary because a number of divorce filings typically increase around this time of year. So joining us to talk about this trend, we have Colette here. She is a marriage and family therapist, and of course, she always comes in when we have these sorts of topics.
You look beautiful.
Yes.
Oh, Happy New Year to you.
Good to see you.
Happy New Year to all of you. Okay, so this is, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those things, like the people go into the new year, we're like, I'm going to get my life in order. Mm-hmm. And there are these things that I need to fix about my life. And one of those things I need to fix is my marriage, right? So that can go one way or the other.
Yes, you're so right. Okay. I think the stress of the holidays can push people over the edge. You have all that concentrated togetherness that can expose the dynamic that perhaps you've been trying to ignore for a long time. And people want a fresh start. They're ready to get their life in order, whether it's working on the relationship or finally asking for the divorce.
Why do you think people, is it just because it's the new year and they just want a new start? Is that kind of when you guys typically say it? Because Valentine's Day is around the corner. They're like, I don't want to be messing with this.
I don't want to buy a gift.
I don't want to buy a gift anymore.
I think a lot of married people are kind of over Valentine's Day in general. Maybe not newly married, but they're right, not the newly married. But I do think there's something to the new year and wanting to get your life in order and have a fresh start and really address something that you might have been putting off for a long time. Whatever the reason, though, divorce is a very personal, complicated decision that most people don't choose impetuously. It's usually a long time coming.
Colette, do you see this with younger couples or couples who are more seasoned?
Well, interestingly, the rates of older couples getting divorced, the gray divorce, which we've talked about here before, has become a huge trend. The fastest growing segment of people getting divorced are over 65. The rates have doubled since the 90s, and in fact, a recent survey found that 36% of divorces are people over the age of 50. So the numbers of the empty nest phase getting divorced, of gray divorces, are really, really on the rise. And I think part of that's because we're living longer and we're living younger. And people want another start, right? They want to, if a marriage isn't fulfilling and meaningful to them, they want to find a connection that is.
Interesting. One of the things with marriage counselors that we often hear is that people come to them when the marriage is almost broken, right? Instead of thinking of counseling and therapy as maintenance, they think of it as, oh my gosh, last resort, can you fix this hot mess of a marriage, right? And I think a lot of therapists will say, gosh, come to see us sooner, right?
Yes.
Do you say that too?
Yes. The average couple waits 6 or 7 years too long before seeking help. Now, I do see a change in this over time, even since I started doing couples therapy, where more and more people, especially younger people, are coming to therapy as part of a healthy process, learning to communicate well and stay connected. Because the number one cause of divorce, really, whatever the particulars are, is emotional disconnection.
Got it. What would, I guess, be your advice to somebody that's, seriously contemplating this? What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, so I think that you've got to ask yourself a couple of questions. The first is this marriage salvageable? And that's a very personal decision. So there are a couple of further questions to ask yourself. For example, is there even 1% of me that still wants this? If the interactional dynamic could feel different, if I could feel more connected, if that were possible, is there a part of me that would still want it? And then also, what have we done either on our own or with a professional to work on this relationship? Because if you've been suffering in silence, right, if you haven't been showing up and expressing your feelings and needs, if you've been stuck in resentment and blame instead of looking at yourself and what you could do differently, if you haven't gone to couples therapy, those are things you might want to try before you file for divorce.
What's an action item our viewers could take if they think they want to go to therapy, but it might take a few weeks or months to get in to see one? Is there something they could do today to start turning the table?
Yes, there are some great apps. I'm the last person to say go to the digital route, but there are some great apps that can help you get conversation and connection going, such as one called Pairs that couples can try. There are card games that give you prompts to ask your partner about what's going on in their inner world. Really prioritizing undistracted attention on one another together instead of scrolling on your phone, watching TV, right? A lot of times people just aren't putting energy into the relationship, and sometimes just a little appreciation and planning a fun activity together even can get things going, especially if the problems haven't been entrenched for a long time.
I love that. Plan a date.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
And don't just go sit in a restaurant and stare at each other like the dining dead. Go do something fun. I did not coin that term. It came from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, a 2004 movie, but I'll never forget it, and I use it all the time.
That's great.
I love it. And I think just remember too that people always say, "Oh, marriage should just be fun." It's not all fun.
No,
it's work, and it really is. And if you want to make it work, you have to put in the effort.
Yes, if you're emotionally engaged and invested, it is going to require nurturing, right? Nothing smooth sailing that matters. Exactly. Fertilize it.
I love you, Colette Fair.
I love you too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks so much, Colette.
Thank you.